Ryan McKenna writes, first, I just want to say I love your show, and you should definitely keep it going with Phase 3. Heroes and Jedi Council have been so addictive.
And rewind.
I wanted to ask a question about what the expectations are for press junkets. I watched the video of Robert Downey Jr. walking out of an interview with Channel 4 in the UK yesterday, which I felt he was right to do. But I also recognize the reporter's goal in creating a newsworthy interview. I've also seen many press junkets with a very serious tone, and others like John Campea's hilarious one with Chris Evans and Chris Hemsworth that are funny and otherwise entertaining. Any comments you have on what your role is as an interviewer versus what is appropriate in such situations would be very interesting and helpful. Thanks, and keep up the great work.
I think Robert Downey Jr. was a coward for leaving that thing. No, I'm totally lying. I do not. And here's the thing. There are different people in our business, guys who are friends of mine, who are way better at this job than me and who are way smarter than me, will have different philosophies than I do, and that's cool. But I'll just tell you what my philosophy is. I have a rule for myself and for anybody representing AMC that goes and does press junkets. We only ask questions about the movie we are there to cover. You know, if you want to be a journalist and you want to do an expose, then work the phones, get the PR people on the line, and get an interview with the actor you want to do an expose on, and then you sit down talking with them. If the studio is going to give you and grant you a little bit of time to sit down with their actor to talk about and promote their new movie, then don't disrespect that by going in there and try to plow them about a million or 50 different other things. It doesn't make sense. Robert Downey Jr., Marvel, and the Avengers Age of Ultron were kind enough to let this one UK outlet come in and be a part of that thing, to have some time. And it ain't easy to get time with Robert Downey Jr. It is not easy to get that time. And they were given that time to sit down and talk about Avengers Age of Ultron. And what did this dick do? He decided, let's talk about your drug use. Let's talk about your time in prison. Let's talk about your dad. You're an idiot. If Robert Downey Jr. had dove over that couch and punched you square in your stupid looking mouth, I would have been totally fine with it. It was one of the most unprofessional, disrespectful things I have ever seen in this line of business that we do. I was embarrassed for my profession when I saw what that guy was doing. Look, different story. You want to run an expose on Robert Downey Jr. and his past and history? Work the phones, make the contacts, get an exclusive interview, get some time with him where he knows you're going to talk to him about that stuff, and do your piece. Not when you don't ambush them when you get invited in to talk about a movie and promote and then catch them totally off guard and throw garbage like that at them. I was embarrassed by it. I felt bad for Robert Downey Jr. I have a lot of respect for how RDJ handled that, man. He just smiled and said, okay. And that was it. I would have done worse, man. Yeah. I would have done a lot worse. Big props to Robert Downey Jr. how he handled that. Anyway, Christian, tell me why I'm wrong.
You're not. Now, let me tell you what. I want you to forward this video over to that guy. Hey, buddy, you're a creep. You are the biggest creep that is working today for what you did. Even Robert Downey Jr. looked at your face and said, what are we doing here, man? We're supposed to be advertising the movie. He did the same thing to Quentin Tarantino a little while ago, too, for Django Unchained. And Tarantino was just like, I'm shutting your butt down. I'm not letting you direct me in this direction you want to go. And the fact that this guy went after him, like John said, what you do is you go and you first of all, shame on his outlet because he's done it before.
Yep.
And now he's doing it again. And you know that you're just, because people are talking about it. We're talking about this idiot because he was able to, go, I'm going to ask Robert Downey Jr. about his drug use and get some stuff. And then people are going to be sending it around the internet. Yeah. And I hope you get fired, dummy, because from everything that you've done, you're an embarrassment. You are a complete embarrassment. Your face is an embarrassment. When I see memes of you, I just want to see continuous memes. The fact like putz. That's all I should say is putz, because Robert Downey Jr., for the way he looked at his publicist going, okay, I'm out, I'm good. And he handled it with class. And bravo to Robert Downey Jr. for not going down the path to letting this idiot take him down. So putz.
Alicia?
Well, here's the tricky thing. So I don't disagree that Robert Downey Jr. was right to walk out of the interview. I don't disagree that the reporter asked the questions in the wrong way. It sounded really offensive. He had no particular point in what he was saying with his questions and was all muddled. And Robert Downey Jr. just didn't understand what he was getting at. He was like, what are we doing here? What are you doing? But he says on his Twitter, this reporter, that he cleared everything with the PR. Like, we're going to be talking about the film plus his life as well, because we're a news outlet, so we're not going to just talk about Avengers because that's not what we do. Now, I've been really lucky that I've only worked for film outlets, so I only care about the film, but it is really tricky to be an entertainment journalist because I think it's the only form of journalism where people tell you what you can't ask. Politicians, if they have a scandal, they might say, don't ask about that. But news journalists will say, you know what? It's news. I'm going to ask it. Sports journalists, the same thing. Us, the publicists and the stars control the room. If they don't like what you're asking, they can take the tapes, they can walk out, and it's your fault. I never ask personal questions. I never want to know that stuff. The publicists say, don't ask this, don't ask that. I'm like, I didn't even know she had a baby. I'm not up with that stuff, and I'm so glad I don't. But I think there's a way that you can do it in the right way, and I think that stars should be able to handle it better. Recently, an unnamed star got really angry at me, pulled me aside. I only asked film questions just because he didn't like the way I phrased the question. He felt like he had to think about his answer. Sometimes I feel like you can't win. You can't win. You get 2 minutes with Robert Downey Jr. You try your best, but it's hard sometimes. Sometimes you're at the end of the day. It's 100 journalists before you. They don't want to try anything interesting. They don't want to try anything fun. You try to ask a different question, they give you the same soundbite. So it can be really difficult for us as well. But that guy, I agree, is an idiot. The way he phrased it was completely wrong.
I think that's the point. It's the fact that this guy was doing it to poke the bear. And when he says he cleared it, which I'm going to ask him about his life. Like, they're probably thinking about his wife and this, not going back into stuff that's been opened up and closed a long time ago. And
I think you could ask about it, but just not like that.
Yeah, but not now. I mean, it's just like, it's it's not 60 minutes.
When he got into his family.
Yeah.
Starts bringing his dad into it.
Like,
it went from just him, okay, this guy's an idiot, to this guy's a creep.
Right.
Use the right word, creep. And I agree with you. Our form of journalism is a little bit different in that a lot of the context is controlled by the public, stuff like that. But not when we're in here. When we're in here, we do and say whatever we want. Mm-hmm. But like Christian knows this. Like, you don't have to act nice towards me. You know, you don't have, nothing says there's no law that says you have to act nice towards me or be civil towards me or whatever. Yeah, thank goodness. But if I invite you to my birthday party and I say, hey, come on, and you decide to accept that invitation, come to my birthday, I think there's a reasonable expectation that here at my birthday party, you're going to treat me nice, you know. And I think
happy birthday, dummy.
and I think in a press conference when it's set at a junket, it's like, hey, we're inviting you to come to talk about Avengers: Age of Ultron. Yeah. Don't talk about prison terms and what his dad did to push him there.
I think they had their own room, which is slightly different.
Yes,
we've
people
been
there.
Feel like
You've
they
been
can
there too.
Get away with more if they have their own room, their own crew, whereas we're walking into their room with their crew and it's controlled by them. But yeah, he got his 8-minute slot with Robert Downey Jr. He obviously wanted to make something newsworthy. He has, but he just didn't do it in the right way.
And you know, we've all done this enough to where when you're talking to a celebrity and you ask a question, maybe you ask a question they're not comfortable with. We're good. We can read faces. He's been doing this long enough. Robert Downey Jr. clearly did not want to talk about that stuff. So if he was going to ask him about his personal life and he asked a question, Downey's just kind of, in my head, I'm going, oh, so tell me more about Tony Stark. You know, I'm switching it because I don't want to. He's never going to interview Robert Downey Jr. ever again. And I hope he's never allowed to interview anyone ever again.
And the one thing that would make me feel sorry for this guy, and this is honest, the one thing that might make me feel sorry for this reporter is if he's got an editor who is pushing him to do it.
Right.
Like
that happens a lot.
And that does happen a lot.
I've got a lot of friends who work for big entertainment outlets, and they will show me the list of questions that a producer who never actually sits in front of a star and never actually has to ask this says, you have to ask this or else, like, you're done. Right. And so they're like, how am I going to ask this? This is so offensive. I wouldn't ask a friend.
Get a new job. Don't work for those people.
So I'm like, that's why I don't work for those people.